Hello and welcome to this special bonus episode of The Dairy Edge. Teagasc are running a weekly Let's Talk Dairy webinar series, which is also being made available as a podcast. On this week's webinar, Stuart Childs spoke to Galway dairy farmer Eamonn Connaughton about his decision to switch to a once-a-day milking system and how he has maintained high profit margins despite lower production.
Eamonn is farming near Craftwell in Loughrea in County Galway, and I suppose we're just going to talk through this as opposed to being doing an actual presentation, I suppose, with you, Eamonn. So I suppose in one sense, to just give a bit of background on the herd, we're talking about you were a liquid milk supplier back in 2007, and it was at that stage that you kind of went down the crossbreeding route. So you are now fully crossbred herd, and I suppose there's been a lot of talk about the type of cow in this scenario, but you were saying yesterday when we were talking that you actually felt that you had an ideal cow for crossbreeding because you had the yield obviously from the liquid milk type cow, and you're getting the boost in terms of the solids from the crossbred. So you were milking twice a day, and I suppose you grew the herd from 110 cows up to 160, we'll say, as quotas were removed and so forth in 2015. And then I think you won't forget the beast from the east anyway, because you were saying yesterday about the day before you got notification that you were losing 57 acres or 22 hectares basically, and only 6 weeks notice on it as well. So it was by accident almost that you came to think of once a day nearly, in a way, really, wasn't it?
Well, it sort of came on me fairly fast, but it was something that had crossed my mind previous to that. When I went to in 2017, when I went to 160 cows and I was milking the full 74 hectares, the farthest land away was being used as support block, really. And it had crossed my mind that I would once a day and milk more cows. You know, would I be making more use of that land? But then in 2018, when I got the short notice about losing the lease land that was so close to the parlour, I was sort of stuck in a hard place, and where I found it, I had two options. I could have sold 40 or 50 cows and gone on just kept going on twice a day and just use we'll say about the 35 hectares closest to the parlour, because the farthest away wouldn't be practical walking them twice a day.
Yeah,
it's 2.5 kilometers to the farthest part of the farm, and that was one option. And the other option then was to go once a day and try and keep as many cows as I could.
Yeah, and I suppose you didn't go into it blind though either, because you'd actually happened to attend the once a day conference in January of 2018. It was like a stroke of luck, I suppose, maybe, that you jumped into the Jeep and went down with your friend that was actually genuinely interested in it at the time. Like,
absolutely, and I remember being very interested in the day, but in hindsight, it did cost me for that. When the once a day option was looking at me, I had heard at that conference that 15 to 20% of the cows may not suit once a day. And I was afraid. I sort of knew 160 cows was too many to go for on once a day. It would have been a stocking rate of about 3, I think. I thought it was going to be difficult, but I thought that if I sold 20 cows, I could end up selling the wrong 20 cows and end up with cows that the system didn't suit. That was one of the reasons I kept all the cows. And I had hoped that I'd be able to, in 2018, I'd be able to source winter feed and things off farm. But as it turned out, 2018 was the year of the drought, and that was a costly mistake. I struggled to feed all the animals that year and get them winter feed.
So you were stocked high at the time. Anyway, I suppose, even on the twice a day situation, and I suppose just to make it clear to people as well that you lost this land, the beast from the east, was the start of March. You were more or less out of that in the end of March, and I think was it the 25th of March you said was the first night that you didn't bring the cows in for milking. So they were in a twice a day scenario really, and then you kind of switched them to the once a day just at the end of March, because as you said, your hands were tied really.
My hands were tied. Yeah, it was the 25th of March. I remember. They were a good bit away from the house, but a neighbour of mine rang me at around 11 o'clock that night, and he said, "Eamonn, there's something wrong with the cows. They're doing awful shouting and roaring over here." And I was sort of embarrassed to tell him that I didn't milk them in the evening. That's why they're roaring. But they did that for 2 nights and got out of it, and after that they never looked back.
Yeah, I've often heard people saying that. Yeah, it's the farmer is the harder person to change rather than the cows. Yeah, I've heard that several times. So yeah, I suppose, look, we'll show a map now in a second, and you've already mentioned it, that it's 2.5 kilometres to the furthest paddock, and some people might think, what about it, like, but there's actually 3 or 4 road crossings involved in it as well. So it's a challenging farm in that sense, I suppose. You're now milking 140, you've come back from the 160. Did you find it easy to identify the 20 to cull that time after the drought, or?
Well, as it turned out, I didn't find many cows, not too many cows that the system didn't suit. During the drought that time, I ended up selling cows just at the beginning of the drought, because I knew I was going to struggle too much to try and feed them. Okay. I ended up giving them away at bad prices, and but it was a situation we were in. Everybody was suffering that year. There was just no feed growing.
Yeah. Okay.
But I haven't found. There's a small number of cows. I know that they go dry in August. They'll milk away fine, and then come August they'll start putting flesh on their back and dry up. Nearly overnight.
Yeah.
But there's only a small few of them.
Okay, yeah. And I suppose, are you doing anything? You have a very high EBI Frisian Jersey Cross herd at 161 of an EBI. Are you doing anything in terms of breeding, in terms of selecting kind of genetics that you feel might be more suitable to the ones today?
I don't think I'm doing a whole lot different, really. I when I'm selecting cows or bulls, I'd look at the percentages, fat and protein, and I'd also look at the kilos of milk.
Yeah.
Because it's only my 140 cows I'd be looking at. The ones, if they're very negative on kilos of milk, they will seem to be the ones that go dry. There's a chance of going dry.
Yeah, makes sense, I suppose.
So I like to keep them close to zero.
Yeah, you like the potential. You want milking potential, but you're not going after huge volumes either at the same time. Yeah. Okay, so you're contract rearing heifers now, and you were doing that as well just before you went once a day as well.
Yeah, I've been doing that now for, I'd say, 7 or 8 years. But it's an arrangement with my brother. The brother has a farm, and he leased it. He wasn't able to stock it back, I'd say, about 2012 or 13 of that, and it's just it's a good system. He takes the heifers off me, the calves, after they're weaned, and he keeps them until puts them in calf for me, and they come back for the winter before the calf down.
Yeah, and that's allowed you to farm the whole block then with the whole, and it's been an influential piece as well in terms of the whole once a day as well now, that you are able to go to the whole farm now, because they're only doing it once in the day, but it wasn't really feasible to do that twice a day because of the road crossings and the actual distance as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that 2.5 kilometres, if they've gone over to that field, they have to cross through the roads, and you can't drive them and wait for them at the same time, because you have to stand at the road. They're not roads you can throw a wire across that drives the cows. You have to, cars, traffic comes, you close the gate and let the car off.
Yeah.
So you have to. I spend an awful lot of my time standing on the road watching the cows walking past me.
You were saying yesterday that you nearly have to take a lunchbox with you when you're going to those faraway ones.
Absolutely, yeah.
The other thing that was that's interesting, I suppose, is your infrastructure. So you have a 14-unit parlour, 140 cubicles and adequate storage and so forth. And we were saying yesterday about we'll say in terms of obviously that's 10 rounds of cows. It's in your game plan, I suppose, that you're going to do something around the milking parlour, because a bit like Dan said, their cows are milking longer when they're on once a day, and you would like to be able to kind of put them through a bit quicker if you could.
Yeah, well, a row of cows now, you're doing very well to get them out in 15 minutes. Sorry, at peak. It's a long time standing there waiting.
Yeah.
So 10 rows of cows is 2.5 hours at peak, and you can't. When I was on twice a day, you could speed up milking the days you were in a hurry and you wanted to get out fast. But you can't speed up the once a day. You just have to wait there with them.
Yeah. I think the point that you were making in that sense was that some people might consider once a day from the point of view of not having to go and invest in facilities in a milking parlour and so forth. It's not something that you think is like, you might do it initially, but ultimately you think that decision can't be kicked down the road forever. Like,
absolutely no. It's you need the facility there. If you're making a big number of rows, once a day is not. If you're milking 15 rows of cows now, once a day is going to kill you.
Yeah.
Because that milking time in the morning is huge.
It's going to extend.
But you couldn't have too many units, I think, for the once a day.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll just move on, I suppose, just to give people context around the farm that you're farming. Then obviously, so where the circle is just after appearing, there is your farmyard. If people can see it, they'll see the public roads identified here, and where the mouse is moving there on the right hand side is the area that was actually beside you, that you lost, which was less than 100 yards. That you said, I think some of the closest land was nearly 100 yards, only 100 yards away from you.
It was wrapped around the right hand side of the farm there. Yeah. So people, just I suppose, as I said, to put it in context, this is the land that's 2.5 kilometers away. And as you said, you're crossing a road here, and a road here to get to it. And as you said it as well, it's not a case of letting them off, and that say some people may have ways and means of crossing some kind of by roads, maybe that people can still pass with traffic and they know cows are coming, but that wasn't an option for you. So the reality of it was, so Eamonn, you were really actually only using the vast majority of the time the land around the parlour and the land across the road from at the first crossing, and the rest of the land then was kind of your support block as such. So you were stocked heavily enough on the land that you were using as platform, say, even though all of it could be classified as platform. Yeah. And if I was to, when I lost that land to the right of me, was I would only have been able to stock up to that point there where the second road crossing.
Yeah.
That's what I would have called my milking platform then.
Just because it was just too tricky from the point of view of going across here and having to come back across this road and then come on to cross this road again.
Yeah, well, I know I'd have if I stayed on the twice a day, I'd end up pushing it too hard, and I'd end up depending, at the shoulders. I'd come under a huge amount of pressure, and the cows that have to walk and long distances, or I'd end up zero grazing, and all that kind of thing would come into it.
Yeah.
It's just too far away twice a day.
Okay, so, and I suppose just to move on to how your performance is, like James has said, you've actually very good performance both financially and from a physical point of view. And Emer was talking about the 400 kilos that they're doing on the research herds here in Moore Park. You're doing 410 there in last year, in 2021, and like comparing that to what you were doing, you're kind of in or around the 450 kgs on a twice a day herd scenario. And obviously 2018, then you saw the drop. How did you find that? We'll say, as I said, your hand was forced. You kind of made the decision. Obviously, I won't say you were forced into going once a day. You made the decision to go once a day. How did you find that first year transition from having a twice a day scenario where you were doing 450 to having dropped back to the 375 in 2018 then?
Well, I had lost basically a third of my farm, so I had accepted there had to be a reduction in income. But the fact that I was at the Horse and Jockey that previous January, and they were talking about the 80% production, you'll drop 20%. That sort of kept me going every time I'd look and be compared with my discussion group. I was always within that 80%. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I was quite happy.
Felt you were doing a good job.
Yeah, and that I hadn't dropped more than what would have been expected. I also had kept all the cows at that stage. So, you know, so I had lost a third of my farm. I had only about 20% of my production lost.
Yes.
I was quite happy.
Yeah, very good. I suppose a key point to emphasize here is that you, like in your twice a day scenario, in 2017 you were at nearly 380 protein and 450 fat, like, so you have a very good basis to build from for the once a day, so you have the potential to do the higher solids. I suppose what I'll ask you is, you've obviously progressed there once you fell into the routine of once a day, I suppose, and the cows maybe adapting to it as well. You've been increasing year on year. You feel that there's more in your cows in terms of a once a day solids yield. You have very little culling done in the last number of years in relation to production ability and so forth. So, but you think that it's quite achievable for you to get back to where you were with that once a day herd now?
Well, I do, yeah. I have set that sort of target for myself to hope to get back to 450 kilos in, I don't know what kind of a time frame I've given myself, 3 or 4 years maybe. But to date, I haven't done much culling. Even the cows that go dry in August for me, they're still there. I wouldn't sell, if a cow is not producing, you're not going to sell her as a milking cow to somebody else.
Yeah.
So
okay.
she'll stay here with me until she naturally weans off. She won't be bred for replacements. But, until she naturally goes, she'll be on the farm. And I have, if that, we'll say that bottom 15% that are there in that scenario, if they're gone, it's going to improve my production. But it's going to be slow. It's not going to be a drastic change. I'm a believer in small steps and slow and steady progress.
Yeah, very good. And I suppose the other thing, like, fertility performance was good in the first place, and is nearly on a par, basically. You would think that should be better nearly.
Sorry?
Your fertility performance has been good all along, but I think you were saying yesterday as well that you think it has the scope to be better again.
Well, that 87, when I started, that was the year I put in, there was an extra 40 heifers put in that year, so that's what made that one look so good.
Yeah.
But I suppose on the first year there, that the calving interval there was 378, was 78.
Mm-hmm.
The following year is down to 364. That I nearly put that one down to the huge amount of meal that was going in during the breeding, the drought. I might be wrong, whether it affected or not, but I had a serious hit on the first year in fertility.
Okay.
Improvement hit. I think.
Yes, yeah.
It's sort of been steady since, really. I would hope I'd be a bit improved this year again. I'd be hoping to hit 90, if not this year, hopefully next year.
Okay.
I had a bad year this year now with dodgy straws at tail end, so that's leaving me with a fairly high empty rate this year, and maybe that might improve matters for me going forward too, because we better stock coming in.
Okay, very good. Just then picking up on Dan's piece that he was covering there, the cell count element of it, and again this comes back to your I suppose lack of culling, we'll describe it as, in the short term. Your cell count, you're managing it, but you've probably feel that it might be beginning to move in a direction that you're not going to be overly happy with.
Absolutely. This year now, I did a program with my vet on selective dry cow therapy, and at the end of it, I was advised it's not an option for me. This because I had too many at the tail end, but they crept up too high. There in November, December, I went up. My average probably went up over 300.
Okay.
Definitely in November, and there was new infections happening all the time. So I think I'm at a critical point where it could balloon out of control if I don't take serious action now. And I'm very interested in Don's presentation. There's a lot of it I'd have to implement.
Very
but
good.
at 178, it's I consider it fairly good. It's at the point where it could run away on me.
Yeah. So, and would you have found it hard to keep that in that order, Eamonn, or is it okay, as you said, right up until the end when you just get that, I suppose, a lack of dilution, maybe housing coming into the equation as well?
Yeah, no, all through the year, it's not been an issue. I've been under the. I've never gone over the 200 until November, anyways, I would say. But it's just there's obviously a few problem cases in that herd that I need to identify and get rid of. Basically, I 2019, the first year of the pandemic, I didn't do any milk recording, and that was probably a mistake.
Yeah.
This year, and then last year, I milk recorded. So I'm waiting until maybe the first recording this year now, where I'll probably take action at that stage. Cows that haven't cured.
Okay, very good. So we'll just move on to the financial piece. This is something that several people have been asking questions there during the course of today so far. So we can see that your twice a day performance is shown there on the left, and it's highlighted in red. And then your 2020 performance is highlighted, and your group average then as well is in there. I suppose it's important to point out that you are 100% cow farm, we'll say. So from a per hectare point of view, you're all dairy hectares really. So people that are rearing their own heifers or have outblocks and so forth, it can dilute that. But so just to be clear for people that your performance relative to your group average is how do you say, slightly inflated maybe in that regard. But your performance is very good at the same time, and we can see that, okay, as you said, you accepted that there was a financial hit going to come when you went once a day, and you knew that it was coming at you, but you're still delivering quite a high level of output. Costs were something that you've been very focused on ever before the whole issue around the land been taken away. So do you think that was an important element of it? That you were focused on that cost, that you were very cost conscious, and I suppose maybe explain to people what do you do to keep on top of costs, or what's your way of operating that you make sure that your costs don't balloon, basically?
Jimmy, I don't know. I suppose that comes down to a discussion group. My own group that I'm a member for a good number of years. We'd always go through figures with the profit monitors, and I suppose it's compared and being open. And if I was spending money, this is going back 10 or 15 years, if I was spending too much money on any one particular part of the business and I was out of kilter with the rest of the group, I'd have to find out why and try and rectify it. And I suppose it's from years of that, really, not being left behind, trying to be as good as the next guy, I suppose.
Challenging yourself.
Exactly, yeah.
And then
I was going to say I don't see myself doing anything special at all as regards cost control. Only if I don't have to spend it, I don't spend. That's it.
Yeah, that was an interesting thing in our conversation yesterday, that you put a lot of thought. Well, I suppose I don't want to make it sound like it's a cumbersome thing, but you think once, you think twice, you maybe think three times, do you really need to spend money on particular things? But that's not to say that you don't have good facilities. You still have good facilities, but you mightn't spend big on doing those facilities, or you try to find a kind of a leaner way maybe of doing them from a financial point of view.
Well, yeah. But simple is often best, I find, and I don't know, an awful lot of systems get complicated with zero grazers, and I don't know, I'm not knocking zero grazers, but there's an awful lot of people complicate their systems for no particular reason, but they end up spending more money as a result. Whereas if you keep it very simple and get the cows to grass, harvest the grass, harvest the milk, that's all you have to do, really, to it's the most profitable way.
Yeah, so I suppose overall comment in terms of the financial side of things from your perspective, we'll say. So you obviously, and I should point out here, I forgot to mention it, that 4,300 per hectare in 2017 is on the basis of the 76 hectares that you were farming there, whereas 2018 is on the basis of the 54 hectares that you're farming, and that's been the hectares that are involved here so far, heretofore. So just like financially, so I suppose, can you just give me a very brief description of where you feel the business has gone from the point of view of finances? So you had a good performing herd, you were very good financially because of a good cost base, but you had good performance to go with it as a twice a day herd. How have you, how would you marry, like people are asking the question there, putting the value on the labor, putting the value on the time maybe, you know, are you down money relative to where you were a couple of years ago? And like, is it a concern?
I haven't got the exact figure. I don't feel I'm down. I'm no worse off than I was when I was on twice a day financially. I suppose when I was on twice a day, I had more labor in the system. I had someone milking for me most evenings. When I took all that away and I lost, it was that lease which I'm not paying. When I take away all that, my bottom line hasn't really changed hugely.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about finances. Luckily enough, touch wood, I'm low borrowings. I'm not hugely over borrowed. So
at the same time, we'll say there's probably a bit of money. Tom Murphy, our advisor, was saying there yesterday that there's a bit of money to be borrowed, maybe to extend the parlour that you're talking about doing. Like, you're not afraid to borrow money because you have the capacity to repay it anyway. It's just that at this moment in time, you don't have a high level of borrowings to
and I bought a bit of land in 2019, joining just to the left of the Milton platform that's there. It just came online into the system second half of last year. I'm building cabin facilities at the moment. It was meant to be done, but it won't be finished for the 1st of February now. But no, it's a cash positive business that I'm running at the minute.
Yeah, okay, very good.
There is surplus money there.
Yeah, so I suppose just to focus on a couple of elements that people are asking questions on there. Your level of meal feeding now versus what you were doing in the past?
Not a huge difference. Maybe I might be saving 100 kilos of meal per cow. But I find that the once a day cow, well, I believe that has to be fed the same as the twice a day cow. If she's not fed, she's not going to produce.
Yeah.
Especially at the tail end of the year, you have to keep feeding her well to keep her producing.
Keep her going, yeah, okay.
Yeah, she'll give up. She'll give up quick. The goes quicker than twice a day cow.
Yeah, which Eamonn's figures would have shown there that they're dropping off quite dramatically. So the other thing then is in relation to the cows that you had, obviously. So you had the crossbred herd that you'd gone crossbreeding in 2007.
Yeah.
But were you milk recording? You said, you said you dropped the milk recording because of the pandemic only. So before, when you were twice a day, what kind of herd average were you talking about there? Some people are asking, like, we'll say, just from these high yielding cows, it's kind of been a trend of the whole conversation today. How did they adapt to going to the once a day from at a commercial level, we'll say, on your farm?
What was I producing before I went on once a day?
Yeah, what was your herd average? Like, obviously, like, herd average, if it's 5.5 or 6,000, that means that there's cows quite easily doing 7 and higher 1,000 litres. Like, so those cows are the cows that you've transitioned to once a day, and I suppose the question is, have they transitioned okay to the once a day?
Yes, the real high yielding cow that I have, and you'd see her when she calves down. Now, you could have a cow there that she's over 35 kilos of milk, you know, when she's hitting peak.
Yeah.
But she doesn't carry that. She doesn't keep it long.
Yeah, okay.
You know, she just not have to carry that amount of milk, and she could go from 35 to 25 in a month. but they'll stay at that. I don't find them a problem.
Yeah,
Not,
okay.
not a problem. They're not problems. The ideal cow would be the high percentage that would peak at about 25 litres and stay going.
It's persistence rather than a big peak, like. Yeah. Okay. And then I suppose just a final point I suppose to make is that the people are just asking about the labour and so forth in there, like that net margin figure there, be it per cow or per hectare, is what you take out of the business to cover your management ability, we'll say, cover your borrowings, pay your tax, make any repayments or whatever. It is accounting for any labour that you've hired onto the farm, but it's not accounting for your own labour. And look, that is just the way it is, because we can't, like, Eamonn, you could have different hours worked to some of the other people in your discussion group, and if you go putting in your own labour into it, it confuses it. Yeah. So that's what you have to live with, basically, and cover the family expenses.
I have to say now, you're talking about labour and pandemic for the last 2 years. I have two sons here that would have helped out the last 2 springs now because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
Do you know that they were at home? If this year could be different, I might have to go looking for a bit more labour now this year. You know, so that figure there is paying all family labour. We'll put it that way.
Oh yes, okay, yeah, fair enough. So just to summarise it, I suppose, like, while your hand was forced, I suppose I wouldn't like people to get the perception that you fell into once a day either. Like, you did a bit of thinking. Now, you didn't have a lot of time to think about it because, as I said, you only got 5 or 6 weeks notice of the loss of the land. But you made the business decision, and I think it should be clear from the way you spoke about it that you had the alternative, you had the option of either sell 40 or 50 cows and concentrate it on those that area, we'll say, just at the one side of the road, basically, that you'd only do one road crossing to deal with, or you go down the route of once a day, continue to milk the cows, and obviously be able to overcome the obstacles of the road from that point of view by virtue of the fact that you wouldn't have to be crossing them as much. Go on, yeah, sorry.
The utilising of that land, the fairway land, is probably the best land I have. And right. if I went on the twice a day, that land would be used for a low margin enterprise, be it dry cows or producing silage or dry stock. You know, so I felt the once a day really uses that land and makes it a high value enterprises on it.
And your figures show that, like, your financial figures show that.
Yeah.
It emphasizes that was a very, like, you're making full use of it all because you can produce high return material from it by virtue of selling milk off of it rather than selling anything else. Yeah.
Or cutting winter feed off it, or, you know, it's just.
Yeah. And just on it's a question that just came in there as well in relation to your silage situation. Are you cutting silage off of some of your block, obviously?
All the feed is coming off there, maybe a small percentage, but it's coming off all that platform.
Okay, and you were saying with the acquisition of the new land now, you'll be hoping that you'll be completely self-sufficient with that extra land. And the other thing that I suppose is important to point out as well is that you actually don't have any intention of changing your cow numbers because of getting that extra bit of land. You're actually seeing it as a kind of an insurance piece for your farm that you'll be able to.
Well, yeah, and with the new regulations and environment and all that, and nitrogen usage and all that, we have to try and make it more sustainable, I suppose. And it's another part of what I find about the whole thing. When I was stocked at 3.3 cows to the hectare back in 2017, I always had to have the grass. It had to be 100% there around the pair. I had to get out with my fertilizer in time. I had to be pushing, and I was under pressure at the shoulders. Things got complicated always, and I find when I'm using the whole platform, it's stocked. It'll be 2.4 now. It just makes, you know, there's no pressure on. You go through a bad patch where the grass doesn't grow until start growing until May properly, you have the whole area available to you.
Yeah, very good.
You know, and it makes life so much easier.
Yeah, super. So I suppose just to highlight the points that you were making to us in relation to going once a day, you're using 11.9 ton of grass, I think, which means you're growing around 14 ton, which ties in with that stocking rate that you just mentioned there as well. But they're the key drivers. They haven't changed because you went from twice a day to once a day. Your drivers are still the same. So you have high level of grass utilised, possibly even more now from what you're saying there, because you're not under as much pressure on an ongoing basis. There's probably more grass getting into cows. Excellent cow performance by virtue of great genetics and obviously higher grass utilisation or good grass utilisation. And then what underpinned the whole lot of it, but in a twice a day scenario and even more so in the once a day, is very good cost control. And that's underpinning your performance as a whole.
Right.
And then I suppose the lifestyle benefits. Oh, sorry, you were going to say something there. Sorry.
Oh no, I was going to agree. It's all about turning grass into milk. It's our cheapest feed and best feed, and get the cows out to graze it. That goes across the board for once a day or twice a day.
Yeah, very good. I suppose you play a bit of golf as well, so the lifestyle benefits of going once a day were advantageous from that point of view.
Well, I don't know. Do I play golf?
Would you go to the golf course?
Golf. I go to the golf course, all right, and I go to we're hurling country here. I go to all the hurling matches. Lifestyle. It's totally different.
And I suppose
evening milking. Most dairy farmers spend their day planning. Their day revolves around the evening milking. Everything has to be done to suit the evening milking. So when that went, it just changed life completely. You just so much time. If you want to go doing a job, you can go off at 4 o'clock and spend 4 hours mowing grass or shaking manure or whatever. Which you could, if I was milking in the evening, I'd be under pressure. I couldn't go at it, or So it's just freed up so much time.
And equally then, Eamonn, I suppose if you choose not to do those, you're actually free. You don't have to go milk cow. So there is, I think the key thing was that you were saying a lot of people look at it as a labour saving element, but it was actually more of a time saver, you thought, rather than a labour saver.
Well, yeah, time. There's only 7 days in the week, and there's only 24 hours in the day, and dairy farmers are the best in the world for filling them up with work. And the once a day has just taken out a huge amount of that. You'd manage all the labour of it, but the time that you spent in the milking parlour is called a waste. Really, it's time you can spend elsewhere.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
That's all for this week's Let's Talk Dairy webinar series, and don't forget to look out for more bonus episodes each week. I'll be back with our usual Dairy Edge interview on Monday, so do listen in then. I'm Emma Louise Coffey, and thanks for listening.